As a worker who has been injured on the job, it's important to know your rights when it comes to workers' compensation. First and foremost, let's discuss what workers' compensation is and what it covers. Workers' compensation is a type of insurance that provides benefits to employees who are injured or become ill while on the job. These benefits can include medical expenses, lost wages, rehabilitation costs, and even death benefits. But here's the thing. Employers are legally required to provide workers' compensation coverage to their employees. So, if you're an employee who has been injured on the job, you may be eligible for workers' compensation benefits. Let's break this down with an example. Suppose you're working in construction and you've injured your back while lifting heavy materials. You would be covered under workers' compensation and would be eligible for benefits such as medical treatment and temporary disability payments. Now keep in mind that workers' compensation laws vary by state, so it's important to understand your state's specific requirements and regulations. Your employer should have information on their workers' compensation policy readily available for you to review. In addition, it's important to note that workers' compensation is a no-fault system. This means that you do not have to prove that your employer was at fault for your injury in order to receive benefits. As long as you were injured while on the job, you are eligible for workers' compensation benefits. It's also worth mentioning that workers' compensation benefits can vary based on the severity of your injury and the length of time you are unable to work. That's why it's important to seek legal advice to ensure you receive fair compensation for your injury. Workers' compensation is a system designed to provide benefits to workers who are injured on the job. In most states, employers are legally required to carry workers' compensation insurance to cover their employees in case of injury or illness. Workers' compensation benefits typically cover medical expenses and a portion of lost wages while the employee is unable to work. All that being covered, let's move on to the next section. Who is eligible for workers' compensation? Is there like a list of criteria you have to meet to be eligible for workers' compensations? Well, here's the thing. To be eligible for workers' compensation, you need to meet certain criteria. For starters, you need to be an employee of the company and have a work-related injury or illness. The specific requirements can vary by state, so it's important to consult with a local workers' compensation lawyer to understand your eligibility. In some cases, independent contractors or self-employed individuals may also be eligible for workers' compensation benefits. How to file a workers' compensation claim. Filing a workers' compensation claim can be a daunting task, but it's important to do so as soon as possible after the injury or illness occurs. The process can vary by state, but typically involves filling out a claim form and providing medical documentation of the injury or illness. It's important to gather as much evidence as possible to support your claim, including witness statements and photos of the injury or accident scene. If your claim is denied, it's important to seek legal advice as soon as possible to appeal the decision. Many workers' compensation lawyers offer free consultations, so there's no harm in seeking advice on your legal options. How much compensation can you receive? The amount of compensation you may receive for a workers' compensation claim depends on a variety of factors, such as the severity of your injury and the length of time you are unable to work. The compensation amount can also vary by state, so it's important to understand the laws in your area. In general, workers' compensation benefits cover medical expenses and a portion of lost wages while the employee is unable to work. However, the compensation amount may not fully cover all expenses and losses incurred as a result of the injury. In some cases, it may be necessary to pursue additional compensation through a personal injury lawsuit. Legal rights of employees. Employees have legal rights when it comes to workers' compensation, such as the right to medical treatment and the right to appeal a denied claim. It's important to understand your rights and seek legal advice if your employer or insurance company is not fulfilling their obligations under the law. It's also important to know that you cannot be fired or discriminated against for filing a workers' compensation claim. If you believe that you have been wrongfully terminated or discriminated against, it's important to seek legal advice to protect your rights. Workers' compensation can be a complex and challenging process, but with the right advice and guidance, you can receive the compensation you deserve. Remember to gather as much evidence as possible to support your claim, and seek legal advice if your claim is denied or if you have concerns about your legal rights. As a workers' compensation lawyer, we're here to help you navigate the process and ensure that your rights are protected.